British AI startup Synthesia has introduced a slew of new features, including the ability to create AI avatars on webcams and phones. The company, which is backed by Nvidia, is hoping to target large firms as its future clients. Joining us now is Victor Riparbelli, who is the CEO and co-founder of Synthesia. Victor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Just talk to us about the space that you're in when it comes to AI. You've got this algorithm, you've got avatars. Why do we need them? What's it going to do for our future?
So fundamentally, what we're seeing out in the world is that people want to watch and listen to their content, just like they're doing right now, right? People don't want to read that much anymore. That's been a trend that's been going for many years, probably 10, 15 years. But there's always been one problem, especially in the enterprise, which is that producing video content is extremely expensive, both in time and also in dollars. So most enterprises default to communicating in text, PowerPoints, slide decks, emails, although they want to communicate with video. And AI is this amazing new technology that actually unlocks the creation of video content without having to film it, but simply generating with AI instead. So it's a much faster, much more efficient process to communicate and knowledge share.
What's the cost of production when it comes to producing an avatar like this versus what it's been in the past where you would have used, say, a human to do so?
Sure. So the process used to be that you'd go into a studio, you'd kind of be filmed by professional videographers, and that cost was around $1,000, something like that per avatar. Now you can do it more or less for free if you're on an enterprise plan. So you can do it from home, record it with your phone, record it with your webcam. It's ready in less than 24 hours, and you get an avatar of yourself that can speak not just the language that you recorded it in, but also in 29 other languages, and it's actually in your voice. So it's a very, very powerful technology.
It sounds extraordinary and very exciting. What are the barriers to your growth as well? Is it the competitive environment? Is it the financial environment? Just tell us about, it sounds great. I wish you well in the company. What are the barriers to getting to where you want to get to?
Sure. So we've been going for 8 years. The first barriers we had to cross were technological barriers, right?
Yeah.
Like even building this was really, really hard in the early years. Now we're seeing AI, of course, blossoming into being an amazingly capable technology. The last 2 or 3 years after we built it, it was cultural, I think. Do we want to watch AI videos? Is it odd to have an avatar of yourself? But I think we've also crossed that barrier now, especially with ChatGPT and AI being everywhere. Everyone now wants to use AI. They're excited to use AI. So actually, I think now we're moving into a market which is kind of like any other market, right? Like we've crossed the kind of technical barriers, the cultural barriers. Now to go to market exercise, who can deliver the best product at the best price for the best customers in the world, and then really growing those accounts, right? So we work with almost 60% of the Fortune 100 today, and our partnership with all those companies is one that we can see blossom a lot in the future. So I think it's really a go-to-market exercise today.
Do you make a profit?
We don't disclose that, but we have a very solid business, and for us it's always been very important to build an actual business, not just a vehicle to raise VC funds.
What are the barriers to further monetization of your product then, given that you won't disclose whether you're making a profit or not?
So one of the key things that's exciting about this technology is actually taking what we think of as video, which is a linear broadcast type of medium, making it into something different, right? So in the not so distant future, you can probably have a conversation with an avatar, for example. You can have personalized videos. We can do a lot of things with these videos that you cannot do with a normal video. And once we move into that world, an entirely new market opens up, right? It's no longer about just creation and distribution on channels like YouTube. It actually becomes an entirely new technology where I think every company in the world will be creating and hosting the content themselves.
Technology's amazing, and I'll leave Karen to some of those. I just want to ask you a little bit more about the financing under the hood as well. You won't tell me about your financial numbers, and that's absolutely fair enough. You don't have to do that. But in terms of, we had a guest sitting in that seat about an hour ago, and she was talking about how second, third, fourth rounds of financing have come at more sober pricing levals at the moment. At VC, which has been used to investing and then putting more investment in at higher levels, they haven't had to do that at latter stages, and that's raised a lot of questions about the growth of the products and the growth of the revenue as well. How is the environment in terms of financing at the moment for AI? Because people are getting a lot more sober all of a sudden about a lot of companies, not Nvidia, that's in a different planet, but about the rest of the ecosystem.
Yeah. Well, I think in tech, it's definitely a tale of two cities, right? If you're doing anything that's non-AI, it's very, very difficult, especially in the later stages. I think for AI, it's a bit more rational than 12 months ago. We still see some, I think pretty crazy deals where you, as a founder, think like, well done to the founders who closed that funding round.
Yeah.
But I do think what we're seeing now is a bit more back to rationality. Is this an actual business? What is the margin profile of the company? What's the competitive landscape look like? So I think it's gotten harder than it was 12 months ago. But I think for businesses that have managed to build an actual business that's growing fast with good margins, I think it's still a great environment to fundraise in.
We're hearing really mixed reports from the industry about the adoption of AI. So the Nvidia story, we've got big companies with deep pockets buying the chips, but at the other customer side, where we've still got high interest rates and people are watching their spending very closely, corporates are somewhat reluctant to spend too much money on AI. What's getting your technology across the line? I mean, who's willing to adopt this technology now and say over the next 12 months?
So I think there's what I call the holy grail problem in enterprise right now, which is that every exec right now has a very easy time imagining the sort of ultimate state of these technologies, right? You just have one big AI system that does everything for you. And we'll probably get there at some point, but the sequencing in between is the hard part. And I think what a lot of companies that sell AI are facing now is what I call kind of AI letdown, which is that they promise a lot of things and they kind of almost work, but they're not really there yet, right? And those last 10, 20% really matters. So I think companies winning right now are companies that can demonstrate actual business value in a short amount of time. And Synthesia is one of the products where literally just in half an hour, I can prove how we can deliver value to your business.
I want to bring up deepfakes because it feels as though what you're doing could have the ability to do that. I mean, what is stopping anyone from, say, using Steve's voice or something that sounds like his voice, combining it with a James Bond voice? We were talking about this the other day, 4 different James Bond voices. Is there a red line here? It's not Steve anymore because he got combined with 4 James Bonds. It's not James Bond either because they got combined with Steve. Where's the red line on this issue?
So this is a very valid and real concern, and I think these technologies, they will be misused by people with bad intentions, right? For us, when we found the company, we did it on an ethical framework, and the red line is actually pretty easy. Non-consensual content or avatars in any way, shape, or form is not allowed.
Even for training purposes?
Even for training purposes, yes. But creating your avatar, right, requires consent. You go through this KYC style process, like when you're opening up a bank account. We know who you are, and you have to give your own personal consent to create an avatar that you are in control of.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of Victor. Karen flatters me. I mean, I could only dream of being like a James Bond. But Scarlett Johansson, great case in point, and I'm sure you were following that story as well. She had complaints that actually she didn't consent to her voice being used for a product as well. So they went away, and it may well be the case that they came back with a similar voice to Scarlett Johansson rather than Scarlett Johansson's voice. Again, I don't want to get involved too much because there are legalities involved in this story as well. But dare I say, Karen's got a wonderful dulcet tones as well. But if someone had a similar to Karen Cho voice rather than a Karen Cho voice, that is not just a little bit cheeky. That's actually some form of theft, isn't it?
I think there's a lot of hard questions here. I think if you follow sort of that line of thinking that if I hire an actor that looks somewhat like someone else, then all of a sudden that's not okay. I think you get yourself into pretty challenging waters in terms of like copyright and those. So I understand sort of visceral emotion reaction to it, and those are very important questions. But I don't think it's as black and white.
No,
of course,
it's not,
making a voice of someone without the consent, I think that's a total no-go. I don't think there should be any questions around that. But if Scarlett Johansson said no, and they found someone else who kind of sounded a bit like her, I'm not sure that it's as easy as just saying, that is not okay. I think if that sort of is the line that we kind of, or the path we sort of go down, I think it creates a lot of challenges on the line.
If people think it's Scarlett Johansson, so they found somebody who sounds like it because they, what's the best voice out there? James L. Jones, Brian Blessed, Sir Ian McClellan. If you think you're listening to Sir Ian McClellan, or you think you're listening to James L. Jones as well, that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I think it's a really hard question, and I think there are lots of nuance in it, and it'll be interesting to see how that all sort of pans out. But I think one thing that's for sure is we're going to be facing a lot of very odd sort of questions around, like, what does this mean for the world? Like, how do we kind of embrace these technologies and get all the amazing things out of them that we can, but also reduce the sort of
Speaking of hard questions, let me ask you about Nvidia. They're investing in your company. There are big, broader questions about Nvidia's market dominance and why they are partnered with so many companies. What are they getting out of their partnership with you?
I think Nvidia, first and foremost, from a very genuine perspective, wants to help accelerate AI adoption. And they do so by, of course, producing an amazing product, which we, of course, also use to train all of our models, but also by actually partnering with the companies. So, of course, they're very well known for their chips, which is their main line of business. I think what few people know is that NVIDIA has one of the best AI research labs in the world. They're very good at training these very large models, and that know-how and expertise is valuable for us as a company, but it's also valuable for them, right? Because it makes us a better customer. So I think it's one of those things where it's just like a very, very symbiotic relationship they can have with startups that are producing AI technologies.